Hey, we love Fridays, don't we? We're going to have a lovely Friday morning together. Shakin Stevens is my special guest a bit later on. You pick the music after 10 o'clock on the happy hour, and we're going to have a laugh along the way as well. Good morning to Shirley in Egbert. We're going to play your song in a minute. She's thinking ahead on this one, but don't forget there's loads still to come on the programme this morning. It's the 1st of December tomorrow, can you believe it? And as well as being the start of Advent, it also means a new recommendation in our book club. And Shakin Stevens is my guest later on. Don't miss me interview with him. And we're still looking for your 3-word weekend, you know. Viv said, Sean, shopping, dancing, football. Happy hour in full swing. We're only playing your requests between now and the end of the show. So keep telling us what songs you want to hear on your Friday morning. Like Shirley, who said, seeing as you've got Shaky on a bit later on, any chance of This Old House? I don't see why not. This ticks all the boxes. Well, there you go. We've done a lot of cover versions. He took that to number 1, as did Rosemary Clooney, of course. This Old House, Shakin Stevens. And Shakin Stevens is on the programme in just under an hour's time, so don't miss that. He's coming to Liverpool on tour. Now, from country rock to Cajun, classic rock to Latin, blues to Americana, Shakin Stevens has done it all, you know, and you'll be able to hear him perform every genre live and his greatest hits and more. The tour's coming to Liverpool next year. Now, to talk us through his very varied career is Shaky himself, but how do you choose from the vast array of stuff that he's got out there to pack into just a few hours in the show? What goes into his set, I asked him.
There is a lot, yeah, but we kind of got through it. We can't do all the hits, so we chose ones that I haven't done for a while, really. And so it's a kind of a nice mix. We tried it out in Sri Lanka. It seemed to work out there. We may do a few more little changes to the set, but we're quite happy with it, really. But
covers of the artists that you admire, what can we expect in that particular department?
I'm trying to think now. I don't want to give too much away, because
of course.
I don't want to give surprises
I know,
away.
Of course. I know what you're saying, yeah. Now, when you started in music, who were your big influences? It was always rock and roll from the early days, was it?
Yeah, I grew up from a large family, and basically they were. Well, my eldest brother was he was 94, you know. But I think, you know, there was kind of 78s, you know, with a wind-up gramophone and that, and
yeah.
And then there you had my other brother, who was very much into the 50s and that. So there was a good old mix there, really. And I think on the road with the band I was with, you know, the Sunsets, we used to kind of mix it really with the Chuck Berry stuff, and you know, throw a few country stuff in, and you know, a bit of blues here, and a kind of a mixed bag, really.
Didn't you support the Rolling Stones with the Sunsets at one time?
Oh yeah, that was great. That was in the Seville Theatre, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. It was great.
Isn't that great? So where did the Elvis thing come in for you then? I mean, obviously you've been a big fan for a long time. You played Elvis in the West End, didn't you?
Yeah, they were looking for. There was 3 parts of his career. There was the early part, the middle part, where he met with Colonel Tom, and the Las Vegas one. So PJ Proby did the Las Vegas till the end of his career when he passed away, and I did the part where Colonel Tom Parker, and I had stuff like Jailhouse Rock and all that kind of stuff, and then Timothy Whitnell had the early stuff like That's All Right Mama. It ran for 19 months. It was a big West End musical. We had people like Susan George do Dial of Doors, and I think David Bowie turned up there, and even you know, the thrill for me, Carl Bergens turned up. You know, how about that? The guy that wrote Blue Suede Shoes, and I've got the photograph to prove it. And he really was very complimentary to me, so you know, I treasure that photograph.
So you had the look, and physically you were Elvis, weren't you? I mean, you know, there was nothing to do other than to direct you, really, was there?
Well, in the very early days, I mean, we were more kind of, the movements then was a bit more outlandish, if you know what I mean. Myself and the tenor sax player, we used to, like, if we were playing in the barn, you know, we'd look at the where we could climb, and you know, he used to throw his sax up in the air and catch it and carry on playing. I mean, if he dropped it, we'd be buggered, you know. But
Yeah.
Excuse the swearing there.
No,
But
don't
basically we were quite wild. I mean, I was looking for something to climb up and stuff like that, and there's nothing for me to go across a bar. And I used to have this big lead on the microphone, and the sax player used to follow me through, and we go here, there, and everywhere. So, but with the West End musical, obviously I had to tone down the wildness really, and or try to. But even then, I didn't actually do the movements. I was told by Keith Stratton, who the director, he said, I remember you, jumping in the audience and dancing on the back of their seats. So I suppose the vintage stuff was still coming back with the movements from the early days.
What was the first night like? When you walked out on that stage in the West End as Elvis, it must have been a great moment in your career.
Yes, it was. I mean, it ran for 19 months, and
Wow.
it's packed out every night. 2 shows Friday, 2 shows Saturday, Sunday day of rest, and it was great. It was fantastic, and to actually have the gold suit on and be singing King Creole, it was great.
Now, when we first seen you as a solo act, really, I mean, great song choices early on. This Old House, of course, was a former #1. For Rosemary Clooney, and Green Door as well. I mean, you brought that back to life, didn't you?
This Old House, yeah, that was the first #1, and Green Door, that was actually mentioned by Nick Lowe. We were in the studio and we took a break, and the guys went down to the pub, and Nick Lowe was there, and he said, "Congratulations on the You Drive Me Crazy." But he said, "I think Shaggy could do Green Door," and they couldn't quite get their head around it, and they came back and told me, and I thought, I don't know about that, but we carried on with the recording that we did, and then towards the end of the day, we said, "Hey, let's try it." So we did, and changed the arrangement slightly, and had a bit of fun with it, and
it worked in a big way, didn't it?
It went to number 22 and #1. That was the rest is history, as they say.
I mean, you often featured other artists in your songs as well, didn't you? I mean, Teardrops had Hank Marvin on guitar, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, when I wrote that, I could actually hear Hank Marvin's guitar on it.
Really?
That kind of
I know.
Santa and Johnny style. I was doing a quiz, kind of a TV, I think it was a quiz show, and Hank was doing the same show as myself, and I thought, well, this is my chance now to pop it to Hank and say, I've just done a track called Teardrops, and your guitar on it is, screaming out to play it, and he said, well, I have to hear it first. Anyway, he heard it, and he said, yeah, I'd love to do that. So it was a great thrill for me, that was, to do that. I mean, I remember, when I was a young guy, basically delivering this bread with this woman in a Bedford van, I think it was, and Wonderful Land came on the radio, and many years later, who would have thought that I'd have Hank Marvin on one of my records?
Isn't that great to look back though like that?
Oh, amazing!
And of course Albert Lee, Roger Taylor, Bonnie Tyler, the list goes on, doesn't it?
Yeah, and sadly we sadly missed, passed away. Tony Joe White, so that was and I had the pleasure of playing with Tony Joe White. Played on one of the tracks that I recorded when I was in Nashville. How Could It Be Like That? And I could hear it was kind of a swampy type style to it, so I could hear Tony Joe White on it, and the phone call went into Tony. And he said, I'll pop in down. I'll be down tomorrow. And I was just over the moon again, really. He turned up with his cowboy boots and everything, and his guitar, and it was fantastic.
Isn't that brilliant? And of course, this time of year, this time next week, we'll be playing your song every other day, probably. The Christmas song. It's a classic, isn't it?
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, every year it comes around.
It ticks all the boxes, doesn't it?
Well, I think so, and of course a lot of other people do. But you can't please everybody. But it's a Christmas track, and it's got all the lyrics in there. It was actually written by Bob Heatley, a Scottish guy, and we held the track back because we didn't want to. You can't compare with 85 Band-Aid.
Band-Aid, of course, yeah.
Yeah, so we held it back to the following year. And the rest is history. Went number one, and it deservedly so.
But it's one of them songs that we all know the words now. It's one of them, as soon as it comes on, everyone's onto the dance floor, we all sing along to it. And that's the essence of a good Christmas song, isn't it?
Yeah, you got the vamping of the bell piano there, ding, 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 and then you just come in, and then it whacks in from the verse up to another gear. So it's all there, it's all about the Christmas lyrics and that. I mean, the proof is in the pudding, as they say.
It is indeed, So you're on tour again. You're enjoying it every bit as much, aren't you?
I am, yeah. I've been doing it since I left school, and it's all I wanted to do was sing, really, and perform in front of public, and so they get a buzz from it, and vice versa. And I really, really enjoy it. I'm looking forward to going on tour, and before that, we do 8 gigs in Germany, come back from Germany, and then straight into the UK tour, and then we're doing a lot more other gigs then throughout Europe after the UK tour.
Well, it'll be great to see you back in Liverpool, and listen, a pleasure to talk to you, Shakin, and thanks for all the great stuff you've given us over the years.
Oh, that's very kind, thank you.
No, it's not a problem. Nice guy. Shakin Stevens coming to Liverpool next year. He's going to be at the Olympia with his greatest hits and more tour on the 20th of March. So make a note in your diary. If you're a Shakin Stevens fan, it'd be nice to see him back here in Liverpool doing his stuff.
Travel. BBC Radio Merseyside.